home for him. And then he put that in the script.
I was able to give him the magic coat that got him in the dining room so that he could be with her.
You shine up like a new penny.
God, very nice.
The grand staircase. We're trying to use real oak, so pretty much we're actually building this as they built it on the Titanic. We're not building it as a film set, we're building it as a real staircase that can actually take quite a bit of damage with water and things like that. So if you come here, there's this wonderful dome that is over the top of the grand staircase. It's 24 foot in diameter, and it's all made out of glass, and it's a lovely piece. But unfortunately, we're going to smash it all.
We put it up, and we were finishing painting, and we were getting pretty near at the end, and Ken Marshall turned up, and I think he almost burst into tears.
After 30 years of studying the ship so intently and painting the ship so many times, 100 times, to see this thing in 3 dimensions and be standing here, I am absolutely speechless.
I don't know if people realise that we had made it more grand than it really was.
People today are just bigger, and 2 people could hardly pass abreast of each other on either side of this center banister.
So we added about 18 inches either side, and it just eased it out, and it did look great.
This is an extraordinary dress. It was actually part of an entire collection that belonged to one woman.
We made a very concerted effort to find as many authentic pieces as we could, because when people go to do a period film, that you're starting from the ground up, you're starting with the corsets and the underwear and the garters and the stockings, and it's a lot of pieces. It's a tremendous accoutrement of accessories. Actors tend to really like that. As they dress themselves, they realize what it felt like to be that person back then.
There's nothing that's been left to chance. Even extras who are in the background that you probably will never see are dressed to the nines. Every single woman has a corset on. Everybody is dressed exactly the way they would have been if they were that character.
Part of the luxury of being in a film like this is that you basically just have to put on the clothes and walk on the set and you're there.
The dining saloon is perhaps the most phenomenal interior set. The fact that that was reproduced full width of the room. Oh, you walked in there and you just had the sense you were on the real ship.
This is actually the dining room. This is actually going to go on our tilting platform. We're going to see this in 2 different situations. The first one is everyone's dolled up very, very nicely in their first-class attire. They come down, they have a meal. But then later on, we're actually going to have to tilt this thing and drop it 30 feet into a tank of freezing cold seawater.
Every prop had to be made. Cutlery had to be found of the right design, glassware, the tableware, everything. The carpet in the dining room all came from the original manufacturer, BMK Stoddart. They still had the old designs, and you know, it was all specially woven for us.
You have all these wonderful heads over here, all these fantastic details we made out of plaster. It's also accented with some wonderful stained glass windows, which produce a really, really nice set. Lovely boat. Shame it went down.
Be Mark.
The thing about the dinner scene and even the lunch scene, they're incredibly tedious to do. You just have to do them over and over again, and they've got to cover every actor, and so if there are 10 people at the table.
I got the air in my lungs and a few blank sheets of paper. Got air in my lungs and a couple blank sheets of paper. Got air in my lungs, a couple blank pieces of paper. Got lungs in my air. What was my line?
Air in
Sorry.
my lungs.
Got air in my lungs, a couple blank pieces of paper.
What's really great about this group is that there are a lot of very silly people, and we have a lot of laughs, and we just try to keep laughing.
Wrote a little song about it. It goes like,
to make it count.
Surrounded by people dancing fast. Some of the dancers have to come on the camera side of them, which means that when you pull her out, Leo, you have to pull her out to here, okay, to give room for them to go by.
My favourite scene was dancing in steerage. I just had a blast. It wasn't about water. It wasn't about anything else that had anything to do with the film. It was just fun and silly. And I got to be relaxed much more. I didn't have to look so pristine the whole time. I didn't have people fiddling with me and keeping the makeup perfect and, you know, keeping the wardrobe perfect. And also it was, you know, watching Leo dance. I would happily pay good money to do again. It was very funny.
There's something about putting the corset on and getting into the period clothes that I feel that it does all the work for me. And it gives me a sense of what the women back in the early 1900s had to deal with, because it's impossible to take a deep breath. Have a lungful. Oh, hello. There's something about the restriction that is very appropriate.
It was true at that time that women could not dress themselves or undress themselves. They couldn't even take their own hair down without help. I mean, it was an hour process getting dressed for dinner with the help of one or more maidservants. I mean, it was just crazy, the stuff that they did.
The character of Rose was born into this sort of very claustrophobic, high-class situation with the wealth and the expectations and the limitations on what a young woman could possibly hope to do with her life. She was basically a chattel to be traded for the benefit of the family.
And so they're these creatures of porcelain beauty, but they're not in control of their own lives.
It's so unfair. Through Jack's inspiration, she was able to break free of that and kind of become a model of the 20th century woman.
Hi Jim, some ideas for scene 93, the tea scene. I'm going to play the mother, and this is Ellie. Just to remind you that everything the mother does should really be very small. All the corrections that she gives the child should just be done, you know, in a minute way. It doesn't need to be huge gestures. She could remind her to put her napkin on her knee. Right. How about fidgeting is a good one. With the spoon in the teacup. Give it a little tap. Right. Fidget, fidget. Thank you. I think a good one is a slice of cake. How to eat cake. And I think the best type of cake to have will be one that's sliced down like this, like a sponge cake, because it's much easier for you to cut with a fork, which she would do. So, like any normal child, she could go to pick it up with two hands. Like you do that, Ellie. And the mother can remind her, use your fork. And she would slice it and eat it daintily. And that's it.
The boiler room was a fun set. This was, again, using a little bit of the old movie magic. Obviously, there's so many boilers, and the actual Titanic boiler room went on forever. We only built 2.5 boilers, and then stuck a mirror on the end. So it looked like the boilers just continued on and on and on. So you were able to look into the mirror, and it looked as if the boilers repeated all the way down through the ship. It was a fun bit of movie magic.
Jim's thing to me, he wanted Dante's Inferno. And I think we really got it, because it was hot and sweaty down there, and I think the stokers had this kind of great patina and sweat on them, and suddenly all the coal dust started to settle, and you know, you had the real look, and it was great.
The models that contained the flooding were shot outdoors because there was a lot of water involved. We had a rig built where it was like a ball with like a fire hose nozzle hooked up to it, and that was pulled through the hole. I think we hooked it up to somebody's car or something like that to pull that thing. When that shot went off, it looked so real. When we saw it in dailies, we were just amazed the way everything blew in there, and that was a lot of fun.
To create the interaction between our main characters and the iceberg, we dumped a load of ice down a chute on the deck of our big set using a motion control camera and a big piece of green screen behind the set. We then shot our miniature iceberg with the same camera move on a motion control stage with interactive